Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I'm joined by Sophomore of the Arizona State Sun Devils, Jacob Semik. Welcome to the podcast, Jacob, and how's everything going?
Really good. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you so much for coming on. And my first question to you is, this year's college hockey season has been very different compared to other seasons you have played in. What are some of the challenges you have faced, and how have you tried to overcome them?
I would say the biggest difference this year is the travel schedule for us. We had three big trips of 30 plus days where we are staying on the road the whole time. So I think traveling, you don't really realize how hard it is on the body. So that was one thing that I really noticed was different. And for us, we're only playing a Big Ten schedule this year. So that would be another difference because you're playing the same teams all the time.
Yeah, and what are some of the advantages and disadvantages for being on the road so long?
Some of the advantages of it is you get to become really close with the boys. You're spending a lot of time with them, and it's good for team bonding. And a disadvantage is obviously the wear and tear on the body. You're traveling, you're flying, you're busting, and it kind of catches up to you. So I guess just a focus on recovery is what we've really tried to implement with our team is making sure we're recovering after every game.
Yeah, and how does this year's travel schedule compare to last year's? Because you were still traveling a lot last year. You're traveling all over the country from Arizona, and I was looking up that Arizona State had one of the longest travel schedules compared to other pro teams. So how does this travel schedule compare to the previous one you had last year?
Yeah, last year we'd fly almost every road game, obviously, because there's no one close to us. But it was just quicker because you'd just come in on a Thursday and you'd leave after the game on Saturday or the next morning on Sunday. And this year, we fly out once and then we'll stay out for 4 weeks or 5 weeks at a time and bang out all the games. So it's a little different because you're busing place to place. So it's a little bit like junior hockey in a sense. But I would say the busing is a lot harder too.
Now, there's obviously a lot of schedule changes that have happened throughout this year as well. How do you mentally stay prepared for all those changes and postponements to your schedule, and what's been the key for maintaining flexibility for this season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the unpredictability of the season, we're just trying to be ready every game. And we've had some cancellations with COVID, and we've just been ready for every opponent. And when there is a change, then we prepare and we switch our schedule. So you kind of just have to deal with it on the fly and not worry about it. And whenever it happens, we've just handled it.
Now, has it been weird to play this season without any fans, and has that been an adjustment for yourself?
Yeah, it's weird. It's definitely you have to really motivate yourself, and it's a little different trying to get up for games. And when there's a crowd, you can easily get up for games. And this year, it's been difficult when you go into a place with no one in it, but you kind of get used to it. And at this point, we're all used to it. But it is definitely better having fans in the building.
Yeah, and how do you try to bring some of that energy on the bench with no crowd noise? Because I was watching one of your games a few weeks ago against Ohio State, and they didn't have any commentators in the game, so you can hear what was going on the ice. And I remember someone made a block shot, and you can just hear your bench go crazy. Is that
Yeah.
some things you try to do to bring some of the energy on the ice?
Yeah, definitely. We talk about that before the game. There has to be a lot of energy by our own team and on the bench, especially. Usually, you have a crowd to kind of make those noises for goals or make those noises for big hits. So, just having high energy on the bench obviously translates. So that's what we've been really trying to focus on.
Now, 3-on-3 overtime has also been introduced to college hockey this year. What's it like being an offensive player and having more space on the ice and having more chances to score goals and create plays for your teammates?
Yeah, I love it. It's a huge adjustment, but it's awesome that they implemented it in college hockey. I think it frees up a lot of plays, shows some creativity, and really promotes the game well. So I'm glad they made that change, and it's definitely something that we practice a lot, and everyone's kind of ready to be on in overtime. So
Yeah, and also gets rid of ties too, which I'm not a fan of, and I'm assuming the
no,
players aren't a fan of either.
tie is shocking. You don't even want a tie. You work so hard and to get a tie. It's just like why do we even play? So we definitely want to win and at least have that chance. So it's a good rule. It's a good change.
I definitely agree with you on that. Now, what's it like to play in the Big Ten versus other conferences you have played in, and is there a difference in style of play you've noticed in the Big Ten versus like Hockey East or ECAC hockey?
Yeah, I mean it's awesome. It's really cool to play in the Big Ten. I think it's arguably the best division in college hockey this year. If you look at the rankings, there's a lot of teams in that top 10 from the Big Ten. So it's really cool to play teams this good. I think the biggest thing is it's a mix of like there's a lot of high skilled teams and there's a lot of gritty teams. So it kind of prepares you for everything because you could play a team that's a lot more physical than another team, and then you could play a team with a bunch of skill. So I would just say that balance. There's teams that can play every type of way in this division, and it only helps our team then.
Yeah, and being a defenseman, you're going against a lot of NHL caliber players like Cole Caulfield and Sammy Walker. How do you try to prepare for guys like that?
Yeah, you obviously know when they're on the ice. We have a pre-scout for them and kind of know what they're going to do and their tendencies, but you just have to try your best to contain them. They're great players in their own respect, especially those two. So you just try to do what you can to be in the right position to make a play on them. And they're obviously good players, so there's going to be moments where they do make great plays. So you just try to contain them the best you can.
Yeah, and how have the freshmen looked like in your opinion? And talk about the contribution they've made to your team this year.
Oh, they've been awesome. I think, especially we kind of have depth in every position, and with them coming in, they all kind of bring something different. So it really helps. Like we got a goalie, we got some scorers, we got some gritty guys. So it's huge to have young guys like that, especially in a year where you're playing such good competition, be able to contribute because next year they're going to be ready to go when you're mixing in other teams. And I think it's a good year for them to be a freshman, just to go through what we've kind of had to go through with the ups and downs and kind of learn the ropes quickly.
And how have you tried to help their transition into college hockey? Because this is obviously a year that you've never experienced before. So how does the veteran leadership help them in situations that you haven't experienced before?
Yeah, you just try to be there for them. There's a lot of pressure, especially as a freshman. You think you got to do so much to help the team, and you're worried about playing time and being in and out of the lineup. So you just try to be there for those guys because we've all been through it. We've all had situations where we maybe haven't played the best or where we have played the best. Just trying to keep them, I would say, level-headed is the biggest thing that the older guys are trying to do for them.
Now, speaking of your game, what have you improved on the most since last year?
I would say defensively definitely is the most improvement I've had. Just blocking shots, being in the right position, and playing in a division like this with all the talented guys, like you mentioned, you kind of have to. So I think defensively, I've really stepped up my game, and because the teams are playing, you kind of have to.
Now, how was your off season this year, and how did you try to prepare for this upcoming season with so much uncertainty facing it? And I know in Massachusetts, where I'm from, there was a lot of gyms closed and ice time was very limited. Is that something you experienced, and how did you try to overcome some of those challenges?
Yeah, so I was back in Michigan in my hometown, and there's a lot of closures. Honestly, I was doing a lot of roller hockey. We have like an outdoor rink by my house, so that was the only way I could kind of practice hockey. So I bought a couple balls, bought a couple green biscuits, and that was the way I was doing it. Doing a lot of cardio. The gyms kind of started to open up later in the summer, so but at that point I already came back to Arizona, so I was just doing a lot of roller hockey to be honest.
How's that like? Because I know it's a little bit different than skating because it's hard to stop and make those quick turns.
Yeah, I don't love the transition from the roller hockey to the ice, but when you're doing it, it's definitely as close as you can get. So I was just trying to work with what I could and mainly just focus on my hands and kind of getting a feel for the ball, I guess.
Now, I want to start talking about the beginning of your hockey career. You're from Michigan. How did you start playing hockey, and what's it like growing up in Michigan being a hockey player?
Oh, it's awesome. Growing up in Michigan because we had like hockey town, and when I was growing up, Detroit Red Wings were coming up and making the playoffs every year. But I think I started hockey because my old neighbor actually played across the street, and I loved the jersey that he had. So that was kind of like my calling. My parents never played, mom or dad, but they always were fans of the game. And then because of my neighbor across the street, that's kind of how I got going. And then I obviously grew up in Detroit, so there's a lot of good teams, and grew up playing with Little Caesars, and then finished with Honey Baked at the end of my minor hockey career.
Now, who was your favorite player growing up, and what part of their game did you admire the most?
Nick Lidstrom was my favorite player growing up, just because he played in Detroit, and I kind of just loved his whole game. Like he's the best for a reason. He was winning Norris trophies every year, and that was kind of the guy that I looked up to just because he was in Detroit, captain of our team for a long time. So he was like my idol growing up.
Now, you played for the Dubuque Fighting Saints in the USHL. How did you get the opportunity to play in the USHL and play for that organization?
Yeah, so after my U16 year of Honey Baked, I got drafted by them, and then my first year, I just went to camp, didn't really know if I was going to make the team, and a kid actually ended up leaving for the OHL, and then they let me play at 16, and then I stayed there for 3 seasons before coming to ASU.
Now, what was your experience like there, and what was your favorite memory overall in the USHL?
I would say the best part about that city is just how passionate like the fans are. It's awesome. Like I stayed there for 3 years, loved it. I would say my billet mom was my favorite part. She was awesome, and all the boys that you meet there. It's kind of a weird situation where it's kind of temporary, but for the guys that I got to stay with for most of my time there, it was awesome. Like I'm still best friends with them. So
Yeah, and how did the USHL help prepare you for college hockey? Because I was reading somewhere where the USHL is probably one of the best junior leagues in hockey, especially in the US.
yeah, I think nowadays there's a lot of big name guys coming through there from all types of countries, and it's obviously the best junior league in America that you can play in. But when I was coming up, there's Svechnikov, like you name it, Jack Hughes, Quinn Hughes, like all these stars playing in the USHL. So I think, especially with that European situation where they're starting to come over and play in the USHL, it's really helped a lot, and it's the best league for a reason, in my opinion.
Now, you got to play with some great college hockey players in your time with Dubuque. You played with Roman Canal, who's obviously a defenseman with UConn, and you played with Quinn Preston, who's with Ohio State now. How does practicing against those players help your hockey development?
Oh, it's unreal, especially when you're a younger guy. Those kids are great. Like especially Quinn, like he always gave me a hard time in practice because he was such a fast player, and that's what you want. Like those are the guys you want to match up against when you're in juniors because you're going to see him in college. And now I play the guy 4 times a year, so I'm glad I got to kind of work with those guys and get better from it.
Now, what was your recruiting process like, and why did you choose to go to Arizona State?
I just felt like it was the best fit for me. I think we had the Dubuque connection with our coach here, Mike Field. He was the previous coach of Dubuque before I got there. So for me, it was just a perfect fit. And I played with Josh Maniscalco in Dubuque the year before he went to ASU. So I had a connection there with him, got to play with him on juniors. So it was an easy fit. If you see the campus here, it's not a hard decision.
Yeah, no. What's the campus like? And just talk about hockey in Arizona and how it's growing.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely growing. I mean, you got guys like Austin Matthews who are a huge advocate for it. Obviously, he grew up here, and he might win the MVP this year. So it's pretty special to see him around doing this much for the community. And as far as the school goes, it's it's pretty much as advertised. Like anyone who hasn't seen it or is thinking about coming here, like if you come on a visit, you'll see exactly what we're all talking about. It's pretty easy sell once you come see it in person.
Yeah, no, the weather's great, and I've never been there before, but I've seen the videos and clips, and I would love to visit one day, especially with the new stadium coming in.
Yeah.
Now, talk about playing under Greg Powers. What's he like as a coach, and what have you learned under him so far in your 2 years in college hockey?
Yeah, no, he's been awesome for me. I think he's very old school in a sense where it's not as much about X's and O's for him. It's more about effort, and um, I love playing for him. He's a hard coach. Like he really cares about you, and he'll tell you when you're not doing the right things, and he'll pick you up when you are. So I think it's great to have someone that's open with you, for better or for worse, because he'll tell you if you're not playing great, and he expects that out of you. But I love playing for him. I like a guy that you can rely on, and he'll tell you where you're at, and there's no you know exactly where you're at, where you're playing, how you're playing. Like it's not there's no secrets with him, and that's awesome to have that.
Yeah, and what was your freshman season like with ASU, and what was the biggest adjustment you had to make to college hockey? Was it the speed of the game or the mental side of the game, making quicker decisions and going against guys that were 4 years older than you were?
Yeah, I would say the biggest transition was just the strength of it. Like when you're in juniors, you're playing against guys who might be 17, 16. It's pretty easy to take the puck off them. But in college, you're playing some bigger teams. We played my freshman year in Mankato. They were really old. And then we played Clarkson, really old. So those were two teams where you kind of start to see like, all right, like I got to get bigger. I got to get stronger, like, because they were just so much older. But other than that, it was a good transition. Like I think we had a great group of leaders that made it easy to transition to my first year of college.
Yeah, and before your freshman year, you got to play in China. Describe that experience, and what was the coolest thing you got to do there, or were you a part of that trip at all?
Oh yeah, I was a part of it. It was awesome. Like we had a great time. We have a guy on our team, Peter Zong, who's actually from there. So it was really nice to have tour guide, so to speak, because he could speak the language and made it really easy on us. But I'd say the coolest thing was we went to the Great Wall of China. That was pretty cool. Like it's one of those things that you never think you're actually going to see. So we got to go and see that. And then we got to meet Alex Ovechkin there. So that was pretty fun too. He happened to be in town for the tournament. So we ran into him a couple times.
What's it like meeting Ovi, and Just how funny is he in real life?
Yeah, I mean, he is a big guy. Like you don't realize it until you get up close next to him. But he's a huge guy. He was great with us, taking pictures. Like he handled it really well. We all looked like little kids at a hockey store. So excited to see him. But he was really good to us. Took his pictures. Like he was really good. So.
Now, in your freshman year, you were ranked throughout most of the regular season. How did you maintain that success throughout that year? And how do you try to deal with all the outside noise that your team had, especially when you're in a ranked position?
Yeah, no, it was great. I think we expected to be ranked. Like we didn't even look at the rankings because we knew we were going to make the tournament. Like that was our mindset. We weren't concerned about the polls or anything because we knew we had to win games. And as we started to win more and more, we realized like we're definitely in. And I think just having that mindset, like it was just game by game. We'll worry about it game by game. And like I said earlier, our leaders were exceptional last year at keeping everyone focused, but also like carrying our team. So it was good to have those guys.
Yeah, and one particular game I want to talk about was the game you beat Holy Cross. I think it was last year in February. I talk about that game because, from an outsider's perspective, you guys showed a lot of grit and adversity, and I think that really proved to me why you guys were a ranked team. What do you remember from that game? And talk about just the overtime win that you got and coming back from a 2-goal deficit.
Yeah, I remember we were down. I remember at a terrible start. Powers got on us a little bit as he should have, and for us, we were in a position where if we were to lose that game, our season was over just based on the calculations and the pairwise or whatever. So we knew it was at stake. We just came out a little bit flat, but like the effort was there. It just was kind of we were just flat, and they were. I want to say it was a specialty jersey night or something. The place was rocking, but we found a way to get it done. I think at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And we had a big goal by Josh Maniscalco at the end of the game, who obviously is having a great pro career right now. So he kind of carried us there and then.
Yeah, no, and you really made that team tired in overtime because you guys iced the puck like I think 5 times that game, and they couldn't get off the ice. And I think that was a main reason. I think Coach Powers alluded to that in the post-game press conference of that game.
Yeah, no, we battled that one out. I think sometimes when you play games like that where you know you have to win, you're a little bit tense, and we found a way to get it done. Especially, I mean, that would have been one of our biggest wins all year just because of the timing of it and because we had to get a win.
Now, you played in a lot of road arenas throughout your college hockey career. What's been your favorite one you've ever played in?
I would say we played Mankato. That was really cool. It was their home opener. We didn't do too hot. I think we might have lost. We lost both games pretty significantly, but I just remember like their crowd was absolutely insane, and um, it was tight for a little bit, but they beat us in the end. But that Mankato was a really cool spot. Trying to think. We also played in Anaheim. We played a little mini series against Harvard. That was really cool in their pro facility. So going to California mid-year and playing Harvard, that place was sold out too. So that was really awesome.
Now, you get to play with Johnny Walker, who's obviously one of the best college hockey players. What's it like to be his teammate, and what's he like both on and off the ice?
No, he's awesome. I think there's a reason he's done so well, and I think he's the heart of our program. Like he's one of the founding fathers of the program and when it started. And uh, he's an awesome guy. He's very talkative. He's really kind of the heart of the room. That's kind of his role, and he knows it. And he's very vibrant. I'd say like he's always chatting up with the boys. He's just that kind of leader. Like he knows when the boys need a little push or when he can relax. And I think he keeps the guys really loose, considering it's been such a tight season.
Now, what was your reaction when you got that Michigan-style goal against Minnesota? Because that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. I wasn't really surprised. Like you see this guy do stuff in practice all the time and try different things, and he has so much skill where we weren't even like that surprised at that point. But he's just one of those players who can do that on the spot right there, and that's why he's such a good player for us. He's just so talented.
So we're now in the non-hockey segment of the podcast where I ask you some non-hockey questions. My first one is, what music do you like to listen to before a game or just in general?
Ooh, I I like rap before games, but only before games. I don't listen to it other than that. But I'm a big Kygo guy, Avicii, more like soft house, not like the headbang EDM, but I would say like softer, like Calvin Harris, like stuff like that. I would say, and then Yeah, I'm mixing some country in the summer. It kind of depends on the mood, honestly, but rap music only before games.
Now, who is the funniest teammate you have at ASU?
I would say Jordan Sandu, like hands down. He's so sneaky funny. He's just one of those guys that like he can make you laugh off the dumbest stuff. But he's a little bit shy about it. Like he's one of like if he's telling me he's funny, he'll be like, no, like, but like at the end of the day, he's the funniest. Like anyone on our team will say that too.
Now, if you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
Margot Robbie, because I would marry her. I know she has a husband. I'm probably has a husband, but I wouldn't be able to get many words out. But Margot Robbie by a million. I would just like to stare at her for the whole dinner.
Now, who has the best style on the team besides yourself?
Ooh. Well, I'm not gonna go with myself. I think Justin Robbins has the best style. He has some pretty nice clothes. I know he's got a new pair of shoes that he's wearing. So I would say Justin Robbins definitely has the best style on the team.
Now, doing research on your team, PJ Morocco is apparently one of the best cooks on the team. He has great banana bread. What's your thoughts on his cooking skills?
I don't even know. I'm just not giving him credit here. There's no way he's the best cook. I'm gonna give a shout out though to Sean Doogie. He makes one dish. He only has one dish in his bag, but it's like shrimp, steak, and I want to say asparagus, but he is like so lights out with it. Like I'll give him a shout out. That's it. But that's the only meal he can make.
Now, what is something that should be made into a documentary that hasn't been made into a documentary?
Ooh. I would like to see I know they did a little bit of stuff on him, but like once he's done playing, I'd like to see a Tom Brady documentary. I know they did like a Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, or even a Gretzky, like some just Gretzky or Tom Brady. I want to see like one of those type of documentaries with where all his teammates talk about him because they're obviously goats. So
Yeah, that would be cool. A documentary that I'd like to see is a documentary on your team for this year, since you guys are going through a lot with the COVID stuff and being on the road. And I don't know if you remember this, but before every Winter Classic, they used to do a 24/7 where they
yeah,
like all the teams that were going to play in that game. And it was really cool because you kind of got behind the scenes of what happened during games. And I think that'd be cool to have a college hockey one of that, especially with you guys, since you guys have a lot of cool characters in your team.
yeah, I know. I wish we could do something like that. I think uh, it would be cool to see it unfiltered. I don't know if we're allowed to do that just because of university protocols, because hockey's a little bit of a different sport than most. But that would be cool if we could let it fly on there and not just be exactly normal. But I'm sure there's got to be some kind of regulation around that. So
Yeah, definitely. But I don't know. It'd be cool as a fan to see like kind of the behind the scenes stuff and see like Coach Powers like rip into you guys if you have like a bad period. Like it would just be cool to me because I remember Torts. They did the Rangers played one and he like absolutely lit into the team because they did bad against like the Blue Jackets and it was like super funny but super scary to see because like
yeah,
I've been through it before with when you like play a bad period. So
yeah, oh yeah, Powers would be good for that. I'm sure he'd be a little camera shy, but I would love to see a playback of some of the meetings we've had this year.
who do you think would be the best character on the documentary? Because obviously Ilya Bryzgalov was really cool when he did it. I'm trying to think who else. Sean Avery had an interesting personality. Who would be the best person in that doc if they ever made it?
I hate to say it. I'd probably say my roommate Jack Judson. He's just pretty funny. Like if he was allowed to say like what he actually says and then like just be exactly who he is, he would be an absolute clown to watch. So I think people would love him on there. And Johnny Walker would just have the camera in his eyes the whole time. Like he would be pretty good with it too.
Now back to some hockey questions. Now my first one is: what advice would you give a younger player?
I would say just have fun with it. Like I know now for us, it's more serious, and you got to take it really seriously, just because you want to make it a profession at one day. But I would just have fun with it, like enjoy it, be a good teammate, uh, just enjoy your friends because you'll have those friends forever that you played youth hockey with. And I know for me, I still talk to all those guys that I played with, and just have fun with it.
Now what should I do better as an interviewer to improve this podcast?
No, I think it was all good, man. I mean, all good, no problems.
Well, is there any shout outs you'd like to give to your teammates, friends, family members before we let you go?
No, I'm all set.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Jacob. I really appreciate it. Take care. Have a wonderful rest of your season and good luck this weekend against Michigan.
No problem, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem. Take care. Bye.